ethics, and research methods. Dr. Komal Kapoor is a research-oriented academician and enthusiastic educator and avid reader with rich experience of over 2 decades in teaching, research, and student development, with key focus on quality input and stimulating learning. Her key areas of teaching and learning have been marketing strategy, brand management, strategic management, ethics, and CSR, internship development, advertising, and servicing marketing, leading to a multidisciplinary approach to developing students and content alike. Focuses on being a mentor and guide to students through input for personal and professional development. She has contributed meaningfully in institution building activities through organizing conferences, seminars, internship summits, participating in national and international level conferences, has many research papers to her credits in reputed Scopus Index journals, book chapters in international publishers like Tyler Francis, CRC Amrit. She seeks to develop herself in the area of design thinking, creativity, innovation, critical thinking, and internship for the benefits of her students and her own academic. Let us all welcome her and listen to her stance on conflicts of interest. Give her huge round of applause. Dr. Kamal Kapoor, now mic is yours, stage is yours, you can start.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Renu ma'am, for that kind words. And I'm very happy to be part of this 4-week orientation program. And I can see majority of the participants joining our research scholars, which is a very hearty sign because I think research is one area that India really needs to boost upon because academics and other areas we are already strong and the world recognizes us for that. So research is one area where efforts of such great universities like BMU and the ones I have been working with, if we in a very combined manner and collaborated manner look at developing meaningful research, which can contribute both to academics and also to solving industry problem, I think then we are doing really a meaningful task for taking the level up for Indian subcontinent in the global research arena. So thank you everyone. And it's an honor for me to be part of this 4-week program. I think in my entire career of 20 years, this is the first time I've come across an FDP or a research oriented program which is running for a month. So I think it's a great efforts to be applauded by BMU and its faculty members and the research department, because generally we have it for 1 week or maybe 15 days, but a 4-week FDP, and that too focusing on various multidimensional areas of publication, ethics and authorship and academic misconduct and the research area. So I think it's a great effort by the university and all the organizing committee members who thought of this great program for 4 weeks, and very, very honored to be part of this entire session. So I understand that all the research scholars and all the participants would remain on the mute position because of the entire session, and that it is going live also. But I think I would not like to make the session very theoretical and very, very academic oriented, because I want to share as to how my journey has evolved. I mean, conflict of interest, which is the topic today, is a very, very common problem that people or researchers or authors they face when they start their journey of research. I started my career in 2003, started at a UG level teaching, and then gradually I've only taught PG students in the last 15 years, and research has always been very close to my heart. So each paper that we publish in Scopus or ABTC journals, where we actually began with only UGC Care and ISSN, and today my team and my colleagues from my other institutes who are also my research partners, we have been able to actually contribute something to our own academic field also, and also the kind of research we want to undertake. So I think this topic is very, very apt, because I believe research work is not an individual task. It's a collaborative work. Research will always remain teamwork, because we understand that every one of us has a particular area, has a particular perspective, has a particular academic expertise, and it is not possible to learn everything that exists in this research world. Over the years, I have realized that maybe I am more oriented toward an academic and a qualitative kind of research, whereas many of my other colleagues from my earlier institutes like Amity University and Jaipuria Institute of Management Studies, they diverted more towards quantitative and developing themselves on very new kind of softwares like NVivo and doing sentiment analysis, learning PLSM. So, to start the session today, I would first want to very clearly help you understand that conflict of interest should not be taken as negative. I mean, conflict of interest is actually a positive thing if we look at the theory of organization behavior, where they say that when people come together with their own expertise, with their own intellectual level, with their own academic background, then conflict is good. Conflict is positive. Conflict can lead to a constructive way of doing the same thing. And over the years, when we sit down on research, or even when we take up so many group activities in the classroom, where our MBA students need to brainstorm, I've always felt that conflict of interest, which is in a very basic terms, difference of opinion, has always led to a much more meaningful output for that team. Either they were solving a case study, or they're writing a research paper, or they're making a project and a presentation, or as faculty members, we have been doing research. I've always felt that whenever we sit down and we deliberate upon, we criticize each other's point of view, the final outcome, the final results are always better. Because 3 4 minds, when they come together and they bring to the table their own mindset, their own perspective, their own input, then that discussion, that brainstorming, that arguments, all that is able to help the researchers boil down the title and the way of doing the research paper, and also discussing the findings and the final analysis in a much better way. I will start my session by sharing my PPT, but by first giving you a small anecdote by a recent research paper that I am writing on with my other colleagues at IMS Ghaziabad. And I hope that this small example would be helpful for all the research scholars in understanding how research takes place, and how conflict of interest can also be guided towards a more positive and a more meaningful outcome. So all of you know that these days, all the service organizations like Amazon or Big Basket and Mintra, even educational institutions like IMS, Chandigarh University, even global educational hubs like Harvard, they all have adopted artificial intelligence and the use of various interactive software to recruit students for the hiring process and for the selection procedure of the students when they're coming for a particular university and taking admission in a particular program. So we were like my team here at IMS Ghaziabad, and there are 2 colleagues of me and I from the earlier institute. So we were just having a general research discussion, which we keep on Zoom on and off. So this point came out that we as you can say, the teaching community, the student community, and the academic community, they are regularly using these chat bots and the messaging options when you go to any website. So if we have bought something from Amazon and we require some refund or some return or some defective pieces there, we would not want to call up the customer care. We prefer to just put a mail, or maybe we talk to a chatbot with respect to whatever our issue is. Similarly, when we have a banking problem and we're looking to understand my loan process or my credit card problems, again, we look at talking to chatbot of HDFC or maybe ICICI, because that is more convenient. These days, we all are doing mobile banking and e-commerce or m-commerce, as we say. So when we're talking to a banking-based chatbot or an Amazon-based chatbot, similarly, when a student approaches a university or a college for admission purpose, the student may be a commerce graduate or a science graduate, and he may be confused as to what he wants to do as a program, as a course. So the first thing these days we think is that he goes to the website, he searches for the various programs the university is offering, and then there is a instant pop-up, which is the chatbot, and which is the AI-driven instant messaging platform, which opens up and which is there to help the student out with respect to what information he is desiring for a particular course, which may be fees or admission process or whatever. But when a student is talking to a virtual helper or a virtual counselor, and earlier we used to have all personal counselors where students used to come to the university and then take a personal counseling as to what course they should do. The chatbot is definitely is a AI driven tool which has certain set of instructions that it will follow because it is computerized and it runs on algorithms and machine learning. But if the child is confused, if the student is confused or is anxious or doesn't know what course to pursue or cannot convince his parents, can really the chatbot also undertake that personal psychometric analysis of the student, can suggest on their own as to what course they should pursue if they're confused between three courses, can also provide some kind of empathy in terms of the confusions that the student is facing. And when we were discussing these all pointers, because we're also involved in the admission process at our places, we analyzed that this is a research problem, because when we contact Amazon or Big Basket, we are not able to solve our problems and we have to call them up. When we contact HDFC or ICICI chatbot and try to take some answers to our banking problem, I'm not fully convinced, I'm not 100% satisfied, so I have to call the customer care center. So similarly, this research problem came out of that discussion, that when the students are approaching a university or an institute for information on a particular course, and they're looking for some kind of knowledge, some kind of counseling, some kind of understanding which they can get, how far these chatbots or these AI driven tools which are there on WhatsApp and on website are able to understand the problems of the student and give an empathetic answer or counseling or a doubt clearing session, and to what extent that really converts into an admission. So when this discussion was taking place, I understood that there were so many perspectives to this problem. So many arguments came up, so many opinions came up, because each one of us had their own area of expertise or what kind of work we have done. Some person was from core RM and PLSM. I am more from the marketing and the consumer behavior perspective. One of my other colleague was more from the technology side, where she could give input as to how these chatbots and AI work. So when we had this discussion and all these yes and no and not agreeing upon, then we understood that conflict of interest is really is implied. It will be there. And if conflict is not happening, then there is a problem. Because then the authors and the researchers are just moving in the same direction, and maybe the research what they are working on or the dissertation they are working on, the PhD work they are working on, will not result into a very meaningful outcome. Because in organization behavior we have a term called group think, where everyone tends to think in a similar manner, and then there is a lack of innovative ideas, there is a lack of new perspective to the same problem, and as a group we are not able to contribute anything meaningfully to our own academic journey, to our research journey, and we can say that we have developed ourselves on this particular area. So with a small story and the small latest research that me and my team are working upon, I thought it would be best to explain conflict of interest in this manner, so that all the research scholars and teachers and students who have joined today, they're able to understand that conflict is given, conflict is implied. It is just that how we give direction to the conflict, and how the conflict outcomes can be created into a more positive outcome for the people who are into that conflicting situation that matters in that research journey. So I'll give a quick start to my presentation, and I will share what I have plan today, and I hope I'm able to make some meaningful contribution and do some value addition to all the scholars and teachers and students who have joined today. And I also would be having a discussion into more practical perspective. So for every discussion, I will be taking few examples as to how I have done that and my team have done that, so that as research scholars and teachers, you're able to relate to it. So I think the host has given me the permission to share. So I'll just quickly
Yes,
share.
ma'am, you can share that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am. Yeah, so I hope the screen is visible, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Screen is visible.
Okay. I'll just make it full screen so that for the benefit of everyone. Just give me a minute, sir. It's taking some time. Yeah, so I hope now it's full screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Right. So, like we discussed, that the topic for today is the PPT moving, ma'am? Yeah, now it's moving, I think. Yeah. All right. I welcome you all for this particular session, and my session would focus on three parameters today. And I hope that all the three parameters are able to give some value addition to you with respect to how you should take up your research journey. And after 20 years of being into academic and research, I still feel that research is one thing where I'm still a research scholar, because every new thing that we do, every new paper that we publish, every new brainstorming session that we do, we still we come up with so many new perspectives to the same problem, and different opinion and then different ways of doing it, that I still feel that research is one journey which will never I can never say that I have achieved it fully. So like I was telling you, that conflict of interest, primarily what we will today focus on is academics, publication, and research, because I feel that in entire journey of being a research scholar, and then maybe many of you would like to go into teaching as a full-time teaching profile, someone would want to go for full-time research profile. So in any which way, research will always be part and parcel of our journey, because as teachers also, we need to continuously research. I mean, like, I'm primarily into marketing and strategy, so I think in order to give meaningful input to our students in the class also, our research is very, very crucial. So whenever we teach, say, a particular concept in the class, say brand equity or brand architecture, and I am a brand management teacher. So until unless I write a case study on the brand architecture of a particular brand or do a comparative analysis, I would not be able to contribute meaningfully to the knowledge of my students, because whatever is there in the book or it's there on the Google, it's available to our students these days. But as a student, as a student, they look forward to a teacher where I can really bring in some more insight to it. And therein we understand that research will pitch in, because research gives us a new kind of perspective, and we identify new kind of research gaps, so that those researches, those articles that we write, those papers that we write, those case studies that we write, we can take them to our classes, and then we can give them a new perspective as to how those brands in the market today are taking up this particular concept and applying. So like I discussed, that conflict of interest is nothing but opinion differ between people, which may be guided by their academic interest, their personal interest. As to, like, I am from marketing, many of my team members, they are from OB and HR domain. The other person in my team whom we really write research papers on is from international business and economics domain. So I think personal agendas also differ. because we all have our own research journey and academic journey. Similarly, these days we know that there is a complete range of journals that are paid journals because they're open access. So whenever a paper gets accepted, they would approach you that there is a particular fees, and because the journal is open access and they want people all across the world to have access to it, so they will take some minimum amount from the authors, not for accepting their publication, but providing that journal and those papers to the worldwide readers who would have to be given as free downloads. But even the publishing platform needs some kind of revenue to generate and then take care of these free downloads which they have to give. And that is why when people who belong to the same team of research or doing research together, they come to a compromising and accommodating position where they are able to bring together and solve the conflicting situation. That is what we are aiming at. So this may happen during the research journey. This may happen while we are writing down the research gap and the research problem, even at that position also. Like the case I just discussed, what I had in mind and what my other member who is from OB and HR and who was not involved in the admission process ever, her perspective on empathy was very, very different as compared to my perspective on empathy. Because I have seen students struggling in the counseling sessions where they cannot explain as to what they're looking at. So authors will have multidisciplinary approach to a conflicting situation. Even whether conflict should arise or not, even that is a perspective which differ from person to person. Like I'm completely okay with a conflicting situation where I'm open that the other team members or my supervisor or my guide or my other team members can question me. Why not? Because questioning leads to better ideas, better brainstorming. So when questioning happens and I am targeted upon and that becomes a conflict, at least maybe I can also understand that maybe I also am wrong somewhere. My thought process or my perspective, my context to that research paper is not maybe holistic, is not logical. So when we are in a conflicting situation, we have to respect and appreciate and understand that people will always differ. It is a failure, it is a mistake to make everyone like you. We
Excuse
cannot.
me, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am. Your screen is not changing. That first slide is there only.
Okay, okay. Now, ma'am, what about this one?
No, ma'am. Same. It's same.
Okay, because at my side it's changing. Let me
No,
just
ma'am.
stop sharing and share again. Maybe there
Okay,
is
ma'am.
some
That's
issue.
fine.
Yeah, I'll just do that.
Thank you, ma'am. And same slide is coming. 4-week orientation program is shown.
Okay, I think there is some. Now you can see the other slide, ma'am. The next one I've changed. It is
No,
not
ma'am.
full screen.
Conflicts of interest is there. Now it's
Yeah, so
shown.
I think there is some problem with the full screen. When I'm going full screen, then it is creating a problem.
Yes, ma'am. Make it small, I think.
So maybe I will just try to manage it like this, where everyone can take the benefit. I'll make this only as big.
Yes, ma'am. It's clear and
Is it better now, ma'am? You can
yes.
see conflict
Now,
of interest.
ma'am, conflict of interest is there, but now it's shown cross and big screen and small sign. Only that. Black screen is coming now.
Is this visible, ma'am? Conflict of interest, publication and
No,
research.
ma'am. No, ma'am.
So that means I'm going full screen, then it is creating a problem.
That's very problem.
Yeah. So I'll just keep it at sharing mode so that it is. Just give me a minute. Ma'am, now is it better?
Yes, ma'am, it is clear now.
Yeah. So I'll keep it this way because I think there is some technical issue with the laptop when I'm going full screen. So the slides are not moving.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
why.
so I think it's quite visible. It's the size and the font is big enough.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for correcting because at my end, I was seeing that the slides are moving, but maybe at the sharing side, it is not. Yeah.
Some problem is there. That's why I told you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. So, like I was discussing that issues can be pertaining to both, the publication process, and in fact, these days, because multiple authors are there in the same research paper, it may happen that they can be in conflict with respect to positioning of the lineup, like who will be the first author, second author, and the third author. Like we have a bioscience department at our institute, and in bioscience, because so many experimentations and so many researches are conducted, that in one research paper maybe 10 authors are there. So deciding upon the lineup as to who will go first, who will go second, who will be at the fifth position, even that can be a reason for conflict. The conflict is not just with respect to the research perspective, even what journal to choose, how to line up the various authors, which author will do what part of the research. All these things can create conflicting or argumentative positions where it is a decision of the members to solve it amicably, because I feel that input by all the research scholars or all the research authors is critical. I mean, everyone will try to bring in the best perspective they can, but just shrugging it off and saying that we don't consider it that relevant or important would be wrong, because while doing research, I think multiple researches have to be done. So if a team is formed and the team is not cohesive enough, then I think the team will not be able to do any research. Like I'll tell you my example. This is my seventh organization in the last 20 years that I'm working with. So at every place I work, like Amity and Jaipuria and other places, when you work with an academic team, you're able to find people who have similar bandwidth or who have a similar kind of understanding like you have, maybe with respect to academics and understanding and student management or research perspective. So it is also important that you keep on forming your team. So whenever we join an organization, we work for 3, 4, 5 years, we should try to form team there with certain people who share similar research interests like we have. Maybe they may be from a different, a domain. That's okay. So I'm from marketing, my other team members are from HR and finance. So it doesn't make any difference because they do their part and I do my part. So collaboratively, we are able to manage research very well. But they have stayed with me because of one common passion, that is research and contribution to academics. So the work can be divided, that can be brainstormed. The tools and techniques which have to be used, they can be brainstormed. But as a team, as people, as persons, we should be having some kind of, similar kind of thought process, and also personalities. If I'm open to taking feedback and also giving feedback, the other members that you choose who will be part of your research team should be also those open people who are completely okay with taking suggestions and also taking you can say negative feedback also. So a conflict of interest can be managed, can be mitigated. We should not look at completely eliminating, because when this happens and there is no brainstorming, there is no difference of opinion, then the final result is not that good. जो end result होता है वो उतना अच्छा नहीं निकल के आता if there is no brainstorming, and that has been my experience also for the last many years. Like I was discussing, and diagram also shows to you that conflict of interest is when someone or some people who are working together have a different interest area, different opinion, because of their personal interest and their professional interest. There is a very clear understanding which is has been shown in this particular diagram, that balancing the act is very important. I have seen conflicts or difference of opinion becoming destructive. So destructive means that the team will, disband because they're not able to understand each other's point of view. They have even people who are from same domain area. They are from marketing only, and they have done 2, 3 research papers together or projects together. But every research project is a bomb blast in itself, and they're not able to really work together because their personal and professional interests, they're not able to collaborate. Even when they are from same domain, they have same kind of skill set. They all work in the quantitative zone of research because they're not ready to appreciate and accept and accommodate and compromise on what they're doing together. For them, the personal interest or the professional interest overpowers what they should do as a team. So such kind of teams have always broken. They undergo the adjourning process before they can actually perform. So because you're all students and research scholars and teachers as well, my only suggestion in your research journey would be that to maybe not avoid, but mitigate or minimize the effect of conflict. It is important to choose the right people with whom, if you conflict, the result will be positive. So that is one area which I have understood over the years. Many of my team members are not working with me today because when we are in that journey, we make some wrong decisions also as to whom do we want to do research with. But I'm still connected to people I worked with in 2005. We still write papers together. I'm connected to people whom I met in just 2019, and we have gelled so well that there is, even when there is conflict of interest, immediately we're able to solve it because we are open-minded people. We are ready to learn from the other person's point of view. We're ready to accept that we may not know everything and the other person can pitch in there. In fact, all the research papers that I've published till date have been a result of very good teamwork. I mean, I'll give you a very simple formula of writing good papers and making it work. So when we see a good call for paper in a good ABDC journal or some very reputed scopus, so based on the theme of the journal and what we generally write on, we take we do a Zoom call after COVID. That is the general protocol. Otherwise, we meet personally also sometimes. So we decide on, because we all are from multidisciplinary domains. So we discuss the call for paper. We try to understand what we can write on and how our own domain area, our expertise, our style of writing can meet the expectations of the journal. So when we sit down, first we brainstorm. And whatever I say, they understand, they appreciate, but they also criticize. So what I'd say, I should be open for criticizing. And similarly, I can also criticize their point. So when we brainstorm that, okay, let's do this. No, this is not relevant. Then they give some ideas. Then I say, no, a lot of work has already been done on this. Let's just leave AI, work on something else, right? This new area is upcoming in the marketing domain. I'm also teaching in my classes, so we can take this up. So when we brainstorm, we criticize, we say no to many things, we say yes to many things, and then we boil down to a topic or a research gap which we think actually persists and can really gel with the theme of the journal. So that helps us in mitigating our conflict as authors, as writers, and we're able to come down to a common platform where we are able to respect each other's knowledge. So the next thing we do is we allocate the responsibility to one of the team members to create a Google Doc, which is shared among all 3-4 of us. And then, planning the structure of the paper as to how are we going to go about it, what is the flow, what objectives we are looking at, or what tools we think would be more applicable for this kind of research. So a Google Doc is shared so that each one can look at the work being done by the other one. And if some modifications, some changes are required, then in the evening again, we can have a Zoom call and we can suggest the changes. We don't make the changes in the Google Doc. We stick to our own area and my own part in that research paper, but we definitely see what others are doing. Because as a main researcher, I am responsible for the entire research paper and how it comes out to be, right? So we try to manage our personal relationship, our bonding, and what we are academically. But we also understand that if I'm good at qualitative, so I take up the literature review part. If my other colleague from some other institute, she is very hands-on on PLSM and she understands the moderation and mediation very well, let her handle that. So I will not barge into her territory, and she will also only give suggestions to how my qualitative analysis or LR can be improved upon. So I mean, I think almost like all the papers we have done, we have not found some major problem in conflict of interest. Because as matured individuals, we have to look at solving problems. We are researchers. So we are given problems and we have to solve them. So if that becomes your nature, your way of working, then things come out more nicely and more meaningfully. Moving on, I'll just focus on the various areas. I would request all the scholars to please take down notes also. I mean, because the FDPs will continue for another 2 weeks, I think end of June. So you may just miss out on the important points which you should focus on. So like whatever is there on the slide, plus whatever examples I'm telling you, you can just note them down and you can go back to them when you start your research journey and you start writing papers and looking for publication. So the main conflict of interest arises because of the academic differences. The way I look at a particular issue, the way someone else would look at a particular issue will be very, very different. So issues can be pertaining to the authors with similar area. So how I understand brand architecture or consumer buying behavior towards services or say luxury marketing is very different from how the other person understands, because we all have been taught by different teachers and our own understanding, our own teaching style is very, very different. So the issues pertaining to similar domain people also can arise. So we should be open for that. Then issues pertaining to authors from different domain, that definitely will arise. For example, I'll explain to you one again small thing. So in this particular paper, we had to define empathy, right? So this chat bot and AI paper where the students, they come to these websites and the institute website and they try to search for this thing. So empathy from a organizational behavior point of view, from an HR point of view is very, very different, because where empathizing is considered as a human factor important for the HR managers and HR executives and professionals, show empathy towards the problems which employees are facing. But when we suppose I'm from marketing, so my understanding of empathy will be very, very different. My empathizing is more linked to understanding the consumer needs, empathizing what the consumer is facing, the problems he's confronting when he's using the product, and empathizing with respect to giving him solution while not giving any refunds or any returns, because I'm a company and I'm commercially driven, so I don't want to have all returns coming back. So when that paper was being thought about, or we were just brainstorming, the empathy which a chatbot should show towards a student when the student is searching for the course, and the meaning of empathy, the perspective was very, very different. How I perceive empathy is very, very different from how my other academic colleague who is from OB, how she considers empathy. So yes, again, we had a conflict as to how do we define empathy. And that too, it was an IT based empathy. So the term was given as artificial empathy because it is artificial intelligence, AI, which we all know. So the chatbot will try to understand the problem of the student. So we categorized it as artificial empathy. But again, there was too much argument over how do we define artificial empathy. So there were a lot of sessions that we had to take up. And then a lot of papers we had to take out from the ABDC journals and Scopus journal as to how other professors have explained artificial empathy. So a lot of problems were there, and then obviously we had to cut down our own context and refer to what others have written. That is how you make your literature review stronger, right? So like I said, level of understanding, level of contribution to the paper, my own academic experience, these all will play a very, very important part in generating the conflicting situation. So, but if we understand these problems well, this is going to arise. I mean, like we say in general, life, twins who are born at a difference of 2 minutes, 5 minutes, they turn out to be two different personalities. So how can two teachers who are from different background, different culture, different family, different teachers, different schooling, how can they think alike? When two twins cannot think alike and they grow up into two different personalities. And I have also realized that this conflict situation also blows out of proportion if we try to convert the other person into like us. I think in the initial part of my journey, we were so engrossed in our own academic work, and we thought that whatever I'm doing is right, or whatever my thought process for the paper is right. I was not able to respect the other person's point of view, and that further created a bigger conflict because it blew the problem out of proportion, where the problem was not that big. So I feel that in the wisdom journey, in the knowledge journey, it is very important that we have to understand that people cannot be like us. Their thought process, their context, their contribution cannot be like us. We should not make the mistake to tell the other person, the other researcher in your paper, to think like you, to believe in you, to only accept what you are saying. That is, I think, wrong, because we have to give that academic and research freedom to everyone to think in the right direction. So that mistake, I think, we did during the early stages of our career. But as we grew more wiser and more mature, we understood that is about the level of understanding where we have to come down to an accommodating position where the other person perspective is also considered along with my perspective. And then a consensus is created. Even I have many times faced problem with the methods of writing and the structure of the paper. Lot of arguments and discussions happen because my way of writing, the other person is more quantitative, so they will have a very different way of writing. Where should the hypothesis come, how hypotheses have to be formulated. I mean, for every structure, every heading, every subheading, there is a conflict. So, but we have to understand that maybe at this particular paper, my perspective will not work. So sometimes giving away or just surrendering also is a solution to the problem. It is not every time that our issue will be heard, our voice will be heard. Sometimes we have to accept that the other researcher or our guide or our academic partner is making more sense, is more knowledgeable, and I should just leave my part behind and consider the other person more knowledgeable in this particular research journey. So scope of knowledge, application, we just discussed. Again, a lot of issues come up because of the difference in qualitative and quantitative area of expert. Like I am more of a qualitative person, so I will talk about no the variables, the items, the review. No, this is not supported by literature. So a lot of arguments I bring up because I am the one who in the entire paper work on the LR part. But the person who's doing the analysis part may have a very different perspective of how the variables are interacting with each other. So maybe we'll have to come down to a situation where I will have to change some part of my review to make it more meaningful for the data analysis results which is coming out. Even that is a kind of um, conflict which we have to solve. I think other resource persons in other sessions would be also discussing about how much it is ethical to rework the LR to suit the data interpretation. That's a big problem which researchers generally face. I mean, we do some analysis, we get some results, and the results are not matching the review, the literature. So many times we have to again start afresh and see where these two things can collaborate well. So I just wish all the research scholars and teachers and students in this particular session that you are able to understand the various pointers I'm giving, and you're able to internalize them in your research journey, because I think everyone has a similar research journey. We all will face similar kind of problems as we move in this, and these all issues will crop up one time or the other. Moving on, again, the conflict of interest can also arise, and how we should solve them is because of the research methods and the methodology which we use, for making our research paper and doing research, even for our dissertation work. I remember when I was doing my PhD long back, there was constant tussle between me and my supervisor, because I being the marketing teacher and he also was a marketing professor. How I understood the luxury branding or luxury marketing, which my PhD is is about, and he was more from the retailing side. So whatever I used to tell him that I have done this research, sir, these studies, show this particular analysis. This is done in China. This is from Singapore. This is from Europe. So whatever analysis I used to bring, he just used to, say that, no, Komal, I don't understand this. This should be like this. How do you define the branding? You say Delhi NCR. Delhi NCR is this, that. I mean, every meeting I used to have with him, whatever good work I used to bring, we always used to end up in an argument where I was not able to convince what I was telling him, that, with respect to my dissertation work. But after 2, 3 meetings, he was able to get what I am trying to say, and to maybe respect that his retail knowledge is not really gelling with the branding and the luxury knowledge which I am bringing to the table. So after a few sessions, he understood that maybe his academic area is little different from what I am doing. And because I also had some good number of years of teaching experience, so he understood that as a teacher, if she is convinced about what she's saying, then maybe I have to just let her go with it, define her variables, do the data analysis, and then come down to certain findings where again we can sit down and discuss. So expertise on the area of interest can be different. Combining research methods. Sometimes a paper will use a mixed method. Sometimes it will use a sentiment analysis and a bibliometric analysis. So a lot of conflict, a lot of arguments arise because there is a difference between how I look at a particular task or research and how other person would want to show in the paper. Here, I would also like to tell various research scholars one thing more, that a very major problem that we generally face is also um, the thought with which we start the paper or research, and the thought and the final product which comes out in the entire research journey will be very, very different. What happens when we have learned something? Suppose we have learned NVO, or we have learned bibliometric analysis, or we have learned recently PLSM. So there is a tendency to overdo research. I hope everyone is getting my point. Overdo research, or maybe getting into the nitty-gritties of the research, where we think that in this paper, we will just put everything. We will put all the techniques, or we will try to incorporate various statistical tools, and we'll try to make the paper very, very complicated, make it very high level. So there is a fancy, there is an addiction which research people face in the research journey, and we end up thinking that in this one paper we can just put everything. But I think it's a big, big mistake, because research papers which are able to get good publication in good journals of repute are very, very narrow and very deep. If you do too much broad work, generally the revisions or the rejection will be quite high, major. So it is better as a researcher, as a research scholar, that out of the entire broad area, you finalize on a particular narrow area of what you want to work on, and that in that narrow area, list down the tool that you would want to apply and finish that paper. Maybe other aspects of your research, which you think you want to do, can be made into another paper. So this is a very important learning which I gained over the years, that difference in the perspectives to research methodology would always persist, would always be there. So it is important to get your mind clear that in this research paper, we are only sticking to, say, the buying behavior or the attitude formation. Personality will keep for a different paper. In this paper, we will just stick to regression analysis, PLSM, maybe the next paper. So this clarity of the tools and statistical analysis brainstorming will definitely work in your direction, will give you that positive outlook as to, okay, let us stick to these things in this paper and these things in the other paper. So then it becomes easier to make the paper also in the right time frame. And if it is a good paper, you will get, maybe some minor revisions, maybe not a major revision, and gradually it will move down the journey. But yes, publishing a Scopus or an ABDC paper is a long journey. Generally, it takes 1.5 to 2 years for one good Scopus publication, because after you submit, it will go for reviews, and then even while doing revisions, I have seen so many conflicts arising, because even revision and what kind of revision is required, every person may have a different way of doing it and a perspective. So along with the statistical problem, the findings that we are getting, the managerial implications that we write, even the flow and the context, who will do what revision, If the revision is more based on the theory, so I have done the literature review, so I should take up the responsibility. If the revision is more based on the statistical part of the work, so maybe the person who has applied PLSM, he is more competent to take up that particular area. So this demarcation is very important, because conflict cannot be eliminated. Conflict can only be managed. That is what I've learned, after doing the entire research journey and with lot many publications, which with the grace of God. So let's move ahead. Again, like I discussed, publication and ethical conflict of interest, because every person will have their own domain. Like I'm into marketing, so I would prefer that a marketing journal is chosen. If someone is from management or OB, they would want that their score should be added by choosing a journal in the OB and HR area. So again, even that can create a conflict. So generally, when it is a paper which is more general, more management oriented, we stick to more management type journals. We don't stick to any one particular domain. But yes, if the call for paper or the work that we are doing requires that it is a marketing paper, then I'm able to justify it to my other team members that it's okay, because the paper is of such nature, it has to go into a marketing journal. So I think if you apply logic, and if you're able to help them understand why it should go into a marketing paper, not an OB journal, so I think we are able to like come down to a consensus. So discussion on the authorship lineup, like I told you, who will go first, who will go second. I think even that is a very mutual discussion topic, because everyone has given their best to the paper. But depending upon the level of contribution, who has written who has contributed what percentage of the paper is done by whom. I think these things again should be talked out, should be discussed as to who will be the first author or corresponding author, maybe second and number three. So I think it is right and ethical part, of the researchers to think of with respect to who has done what. I mean, the weightage should decide as to the authorship lineup, the first author, second, and third. I remember, I'll just take a small example here, where I had a lot of, you can say, an ethical dilemma a few years back when I was working on a paper with one of my colleagues. So, one of my earlier colleague, so he became a guest editor in one of the good reputed journal. So he was the guest editor. Sorry, his some known colleague became the guest editor. They were launching a special call for paper, and she was the guest editor. So this person contacted us that we have a call for paper and we can think of writing a paper, because I am from this background, you are from marketing, you are from OB, so we can maybe collaborate well. And a general management call for paper is there, so we can think of something in this domain and we can work. The journal was on quality and reliability. So we can make any kind of new technology parameters, say maybe reliability of AI or some kind of disruptive technology, and then work on it. So when the entire journey was taking up shape and we were writing, we were discussing and everything, we realized that the third person who approached us for telling us the call for paper was not contributing much. Every time there was some excuse, some story, some this, that. So in the end, after 2-3 months, the paper was ready. Only me and one more person, we did 90%, 95% of the paper. So he used to be there in discussions, but not really contributed well. So fine, no problem. Sometimes it happens that people are busy with their personal issues and they may not contribute that well. And when the paper was about to be uploaded on a particular journal and everything, then he, I mean, not requested, but he said that write my name as the first author. So because I told you this option of call for paper and that we can write on it, and the guest editor also is known to me, so my name should be in the first authorship. So this was again a conflicting situation, because obviously it was unethical on his part of not doing anything and asking to be the first author, which me and my team member did not agree to. So a lot of discussion, lot of hue and cry and arguments and this and that. So ultimately, I mean, we being our ethical selves, we did not agree that he will be the first author. So 50-60% paper was written by me. So I was the first author, and the other person did the 40% of the paper, and she was the second author. And we said, yes, you helped us to get the knowledge or information about the call for paper, but this information is also available on Google. It is not that we have not done our part, and you should take benefit from it. So I mean, because there is a personal clash. I mean, people who are ethical and people who are little unethical in their approach, they have difficulty in gelling, right? Because the way of working is very different and the thought process is very different. So ultimately, we convinced him that either you'll be third author, and if you are okay, so fine. Otherwise, we'll just drop the paper. We will not send it anywhere. So ultimately, I think what do you say? Ethics overpowered the wrong demand, and we were able to send the paper. So we already got the first revision, and we have submitted it. So hopefully, it's in the journey of publication, and we will get some good results out of it. But me and other two members who are working in the same team, we have decided that maybe in our future papers, we would not want to include that third person who approached us for being the first author when he's not done anything. So this paper gave us a lesson that maybe, personally, professionally, maybe we are able to gel upon, but professionally, personally, maybe I think we are very much different from each other, and people who are different in their value system, generally are not able to work very well. So the value system, similarity is very important when we are writing such kind of papers. Yeah, so responsibility of for uploading the paper and revisions and everything, and then obviously I told you about the paid publication and the unpaid. So there is again a diversity of issue and diversity of different voices as to it's okay to pay, it's not okay to pay. The very reputed ones, they never ask for any kind of authorship, but we also know that the world requires open access of these papers so that all the research scholars can benefit out of it. Otherwise, not every university has the Scopus subscription and they have all the papers. So we are able to get them somehow because many methods are there. But paid and unpaid also is an area which requires a lot of deliberation and a lot of issues may come up. How much, who will pay, should we go ahead, just leave it, or we should try for some other paper. So these also areas, they create conflict. This diagram, I think, obviously would not be that visible because it is not coming full screen, but I will tell you what diagram is all about. Actually, conflict is not only limited to the people who are writing the paper. Okay, like I'm a full-time teacher with IMS Ghaziabad University Courses campus, and every researcher or research scholar who will be, working, like all the members I saw in the meeting, they are the research scholars at BMU and maybe at other places also. So you are also bound by your research scholar guidelines as to what you can do and what you cannot do. Like as a teacher, I'm a full-time employee here, and plus as a researcher, I work with certain teams. So when there is a research paper that is under consideration where some amount has to be paid, or maybe I get some research consultancy assignment, which is because I'm working with IMS. But if I go as an external resource person, so there is a conflict between the various stakeholders. So the stakeholders are me, my institute, the other party who has invited me for that research consultancy or for, say, taking a session, and how we try to manage the conflict among these stakeholders. Very, very critical. Because many times when we are into, is the voice clear now? I think there was someone in the chat box who said issues with voice. Is voice
clear
okay now? Okay.
Okay. Totally.
Yeah. So what I was saying was, so there's a issue with the various stakeholders because my institute, where would not allow as part of the employment policy that I start generating revenue from some other sources, right? Because I am an employee of an institute or a university. So as in that capacity, I can take up more assignments outside, whether as a resource person, as an expert, as a PhD guide, this, that. But then I also have to justify my employment conditions. So what happens is a lot of conflict arise, between these concern where, my HOD or my dean or the director or, the vice chancellors and what I am doing, for the research fraternity may conflict, right? So what I have seen, good places and places that are developing their, research, they should create a research policy. Research policy eliminates lot of problems of conflict, because when it is clear, then people know in black and white as to what is allowed and what is not allowed, right? Like, I told you we have a bioscience department also at IMS. So the bioscience teachers, they keep on getting research grants. I think all of you know who are from science. They apply to the CSIR, and then your Department of Science, DST, and there is a body called SERB. They have grants there. So they keep on applying for grants, and these grants are like 15 lakh, 30 lakhs, and more than that, because of the experimentation and the research which has to be done. So now if one, like the HOD of the bioscience department, she gets a research grant of say 30 lakhs, and that's a project of 3 years. So she will have to keep more researchers with her, whom she has to pay the stipend also. That is how research is being done. But she's also part of the institute as an HOD. So she is also bound by the employment conditions. So when the research policy was made, it was mentioned that if a faculty who applies for a government grant or a project, they, whatever grant is coming, so 60% would be given to the faculty for doing the research, doing the experiments, hiring people under the team, doing the field work, this, that, and 40% will come to the institute. Okay, why? Number one, the team is from the institute. The team also, the institute also has to show the revenue generation, right? And you are doing the research, so you will be going out of the institute for doing the research, for experimentation. So during those times, you are not devoting your time to the institute for the institute level work. So we are giving you, OD, what we call as outside duty. We are allowing you to go. So it's a win-win situation, right? And that is how conflict is solved. So it's in the research policy, it's a win-win situation where the amount of grant will come to the account of the institute, from where it will be disbursed to the faculty. So 60% will be given to them, and 40% the institute will utilize, again, for developing the institute only, for making labs better, for having more FDPs. So that can be decided upon mutually. Okay, so I'm only giving you example as to how conflicts can be managed, because division of earning and then keeping the individual and the institutional perspective and the benefits together. So this can be achieved very, very amicably, right? And so similarly, and obviously it helps as an incentive also, because many of the teachers are young who are also pursuing their PhD. So like the HOD can utilize these faculty members who are also scholars under her team, and they can be given the stipend. So along with the salary, they will also get the stipend for doing the experiments and doing the field work. So then that solves the problem of all the stakeholders, right? The institute, the team which has got the project or the grant, and also the members whom you have to hire for getting the project done. So I'm just giving you through examples that conflict is not really that bad, but conflict which converts into a positive outcome, a constructive outcome, is definitely good. But if conflict is becoming personal, it leads to destructive methods of solving, then maybe there has to be a decision where that team is not able to work well, and team should, disband, right? Let's just quickly look at other things. I think we are already short of time. So this we discussed. There can be a conflict between the publisher and the authors and the editors that can be discussed upon. We discussed that. Then conflict of interest among the editors also. Like, because you have editors, you have sub-editors, you have reviewers. So many times a lot of issues can crop up between them also. Like, which articles to choose for publication, and then how to evaluate, what parameters to, consider, which reviewers to send the paper for reviewing. So a lot of issues come up. I mean, research, I think research is one area which is full of conflict, because research can be done in n number of ways, and no n number of way is wrong. Like we always teach our management students that in any management answer or management case study or a real life problem, no answer is wrong, because management is not black and white, it's all shades of gray. So whenever you solve a case study, whenever you go and sit for an interview, so whatever answer you give and how you give is not wrong, is how you're able to justify that in this problem the leader should do this, why? In this problem leader should just not do this, so why? So similar to management, research also requires a lot of deliberation in publication, in writing, because no answer is right and wrong. It is all about how the team of the researchers can justify each other and appreciate each other's knowledge area, and then come down to a consensus where all of them can really write a good research paper, or get it published at a good platform, right? So this also we discussed academic ethical conduct, like individual ethical value system where yours and the other person is not matching, and then manifestation of ethical conduct, I mean what my value system tells me, and because of that what I will do and what I will never do, this will always differ. Plagiarism is also a very big issue which comes under ethical misconduct, and these days a lot of tools are available to us for saving ourselves from plag. But being an old school teacher and old school researcher, I will just say that it's always good to give your own fresh thought and perspective to your research. Many people have written many things, so just paraphrasing them and using these AI and chat GPT tools for paraphrasing and changing may convert into a paper, but will not convert into knowledge. So research should not be just considered as publishing papers. Research should be considered as a journey where each step should add to our knowledge, to our own development, making us as a more learned individual, researcher and academician, so that whatever personality characteristics we have, they get enhanced over time. 10 years back, what kind of researcher I was, and 5 years back, what I was, and today, what I am. There is a sea change difference in what we have grown and what we have evolved from. What I am today, what work I'm doing today is going to be very different from what work I'll do 5 years down the line. So I think it's very important to clearly categorize the moral ethical stage of your research development as to what you are today, what you want to be, and how do you want to see yourself. Like, I mean, everyone has a dream, everyone has a vision. So I also have a dream for myself that after 5 years I should be known for this topic, for this concept. After 10 years I want people to read my work on this area, or I should write books on this particular area and become a name in this kind of the subject. So it's very important that as a research scholar, as a person, like you are starting your journey, now you have to identify your dreams and goals and look into what works with you, what kind of people are able to work with you, and you are able to work with them. Some teams may never work out. Some teams will work out very nicely and they will continue to work with you, right? Define your own area of knowledge, what you are good at, what they are good at. Collaborate, give suggestions. If conflict is there, take the good ideas, right? Like I have mentioned, uh, solution to conflict of interest, like mutual respect and understanding, task allocation based on the expertise, like we were discussing. Deadline based working also reduces the tension, because then you're moving in the right direction. Keeping a check on the quality of the other person, because when we have a common document, we're able to see what is being done. So rather than correcting it there, we can bring it to our discussions and tables, right? Then very important is free rider syndrome. That should be avoided, because like the same person who asked us to write his name as the first name, where he did not do anything, that is the free rider syndrome. Some people just think that because I gave you the information, or I will help you get it published so I can take the advantage for that, that is wrong. I mean, I always feel that once we help such kind of people once, they will always expect that help will be given all the time. So वो एक बार उंगली पकड़ाना ही गलत है, क्योंकि एक बार उंगली पकड़ाने से वो हर बार ही they will assume that this will be done. So I think based on our own ethical principles, first time it should be told as a very clear thing that it will not be accepted. So these things, these lines we have to draw for solving, the conflict. Just I'll come to the end of my session, and then I can take few questions if any of the scholars have it or any teachers have it. So brainstorming conflict is good, because brainstorming and lot of ideas, criticism, this that, it brings out lot of new ideas, lot of new versions of the same research problem, lot of concerns, lot of perspectives which are required for doing research well, right? So I always tell my students also that you behave like a devil's advocate. So devil advocate means in a team, you never agree to other person's point of view. You are the devil's advocate. So devil means which stands for all wrong, and advocate means that person who supports wrong. So whenever a team work is happening and everyone is saying yes, yes, we should go ahead with this one, you be the one who say no, this is not done, I don't think this will work, I think we should change our mode of working. So you are doing a role of a devil's advocate. So devil advocate brings in the criticism, brings in a point of saying no when everyone is saying yes. Because sometimes everyone says yes, the result is not that good. The result outcome or the research outcome is not that meaningful and productive. Then constructive feedback, we should always be open for. I think feedback and open to feedback is a very important researcher's quality, right? Because your research journey has just begun and it will continue forever. So we cannot have a good research journey if we have a closed mind, that whatever I'm thinking is right, your perspective is not that good, it's out of the loop, it's not really relevant. No, an open learning attitude towards suggestion, towards feedback does wonders. And I've seen that in large number of papers I have written, that when I got fixated on my point of view and I was not ready to change my thought process, the paper did not come out well. But when I said, okay, let me listen to the other person's point of view, let me see what they are saying, the outcome of the discussion was highly effective, was highly good. So I think we only learn through deliberations and examples and everything. So that is how we're able to do well. Then criticism is sometimes good, teamwork gets enhanced, difference of opinion creates different opinion, I always believe. And design thinking to problem solving, because design thinking is one paper which I teach to my master's level student, and I also take workshops and simulation workshops for design thinking at various other places. So design thinking is basically looking at perspective from a creative and innovative perspective. What our mind is attuned of looking at things in a very logical manner, very rational manner, which is not always right. Today, the problems are, different kinds. They may just crop up from anywhere. They are very different from the problems we used to have earlier. So design thinking is a thought or is a thinking process where your mind learns to critically look at things. The mind looks at not accepting things as they are. The mind considers a more innovative, more out of the box way of solving a problem and not following a cliched and a historical way of working. That's called design thinking. So designing and thinking, you think about designing the issue, designing the problem in such a manner which no one has ever thought earlier. And that is what design thinking is all about. It is about the mindset. It is about the way of working. It is about the culture that you build in. So design thinking, if we bring into our research also, and we let new ideas, new ways of working, little creative here and there to bring in, and let's see how it comes out. Sometimes it really works for the entire team. and also for the paper. Sometimes a very old, traditional, cliched, tested and tried approach, sometimes it doesn't work because everyone is working on the same thing. So if we bring in certain innovation, certain out of the box, which no one has thought earlier, I think that brings in the design thinking perspective to our researchers. So I guess that's all from my side. So I'm open for taking questions, any in the chat box. So I hope I could add some value to the research scholars, and the session could help you in your research journey. So if you have any questions, I can take 2-3 questions before we wind up, and I can see them in the chat box if there are any.
I think up to now there's no questions in the chat box.
Okay. So I'm generally saying in the classes that if there are no questions, so it is either all clear or it is other way. Nothing is clear.
No, ma'am, it's a very informative session. So many things with the example, it is very easy to understand the things. Yes. Otherwise, practical paper means some students are boring and something else. You have given your own example. That is more interesting for the students.
Yes. So I thought the same way because we have written so many papers and we have lived this journey. So for the research scholars, what better to share your journey as to what we did right and what we did wrong, so that they can learn from
it. They can benefit from our experiences.
Yes,
that is very good.
There is one question where I saw someone is asking, what is devil's advocate? I think I saw that, right? Devil's advocate, I think. Yeah.
Okay,
okay, sure. So devil's advocate is basically, we use this term when we teach team building to our students. So when there is a teamwork and people have different opinion, different ways of working. So generally people don't want to work. So they will just say, they will become yes ma'am. Suppose the leader will say, okay, let's do this today. So all the members will say, हाँ yes sir, जो आप कह रही हैं बिल्कुल ठीक है, हमें ऐसे ही करना चाहिए और आपके तो हमेशा suggestions best होते हैं. So everyone tries to please the leader. They all become yes man. Okay? अब yes man बनने से क्या होता है? No new idea will come out. Everyone will just agree to what leader is saying. That leads to a problem which we call in OB as group think. The group will think in the same manner because they will not want to explore. Explore करेंगे तो फंस जाएंगे. Explore करेंगे तो या तो criticism मिलेगा या आपकी बात को accept नहीं किया जाएगा. So devil's advocate is a concept where if you as a team member wants to be appreciated, wants to stand out in a crowd, or you have some agenda where you think मुझे जरूरी नहीं है कि मैं हर किसी को agree करूं. I have my own viewpoint. मैं agree नहीं करता. मुझे लगता है जो लीडर कह रहे हैं अगर हम उसको implement कर देंगे तो ये बहुत ही गलत हो जाएगा. So devil's advocate is a person who will criticize whatever the team is agreeing upon, so that you will be looked upon as a negative person. देखिए devil is evil and devil's advocate मतलब जो evil का वकील है. Evil का वकील तो evil ही हुआ ना, जो evil को support कर रहा है. So as a team member जब आप लोगों की बात काटते हैं या आप लीडर की बात की हाँ में हाँ नहीं मिलाते हैं या you say no, sir I don't agree, तो आप बुरे तो बनते हैं. तो बुरे तो बनते हैं लेकिन उस बुरे बनने की प्रोसेस में maybe the group will end up doing something better which they were not doing earlier. That is what it is, a devil's advocate. So लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है कि आपको हर जगह devil's advocate बनने की जरूरत है क्योंकि कई बार वो उल्टा पड़ जाता है और नौकरी से हाथ धोना पड़ सकता है. So yeah, so it is important कि आप टीम को समझें, लीडर की ओपननेस को समझें, लीडर कितना पार्टिसिपेटिव है या कितना अप्रिशिएट करेगा आपके अलग आइडिया को, और वो देखते हुए देन यू कैन पुट अक्रॉस डिफरेंट आइडियाज जो लीडर से मैच ना करते हो. बट ये एक ओबी टेक्निक है जिसमें कि टीम बिल्डिंग कैन बी. Yeah ma'am, my area is marketing and strategy, so definitely you can approach me. Banita ma'am has my phone number and my details. She can share with you, and I'd be very happy to take sessions for research on even on design thinking. I also take sessions on entrepreneurship because I'm managing the entrepreneurship cell at IMS. So anytime I'll be open for helping the teachers or the faculty or the students. That is what we are here for in academics, to help each other. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for your time and presence. It really means a lot of us. It was indeed such an informative session. It means we don't know so much about the conflicts of so many things you know that told us. So I think all the participants, including the research scholars, key faculty members, or other people, they are benefit from it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And I thank BMU and the organizers for having me, and looking forward to having more such sessions in the future.